In the early 2000s, a frail but gifted boy named Lionel Messi dominated the dusty pitches of Rosario, Argentina. Word of his supernatural control and vision spread quickly, reaching the ears of scouts across Europe. As with reality, his hormonal condition required expensive treatment his family couldn't afford. But in this alternate timeline, FC Barcelona hesitated. Bureaucratic delays and internal restructuring meant Messi's trial was postponed. Enter Real Madrid. Eager to outmaneuver their eternal rivals, they acted swiftly. A plane ticket, a medical promise, and a youth contract sealed the deal. Jorge Messi, torn but desperate, agreed. At 13, Lionel arrived not in the warmth of La Masía, but the austere, grand corridors of Valdebebas. The culture shock was immediate. The white-clad academy, unlike Barcelona's tight-knit family structure, was colder, more hierarchical. Messi, quiet by nature, struggled to connect. But his feet spoke a universal language. Coaches marveled at his balance, his change of pace, the way he slalomed past defenders like they were statues. By 16, whispers of La Pulga reached the senior squad. But in a Real Madrid dominated by Galacticos, Zidane, Figo, Ronaldo, the idea of elevating a boy barely 5 feet tall felt absurd. Still, head coach Vicente del Bosque gave him minutes in Copa del Rey matches, and what they saw was undeniable. Messi wasn't just good, he was transcendent. The Madrid press, always hungry, pounced. The next Maradona in white, they blared. Messi's legend began not in Catalonia, but in the capital of Castile. The future had arrived, but at what cost? The years that followed Messi's arrival in Madrid were shaped by quiet battles, not against defenders, but against invisibility. Valdebebas, though modern and pristine, lacked the soul of La Masía. While La Masía encouraged expression, humility, and unity, Madrid's academy was a proving ground built on discipline and silent competition. It was a factory for stars, not family. Lionel drifted through these years like a ghost with golden feet. He rarely spoke, struggling with Castellano instead of Catalan, and found little camaraderie in his teammates, most of whom were taller, brasher, more accustomed to Madrid's swaggering pride. His only solace came from the ball. On the pitch, he was undeniable, slicing through defenders, scoring from impossible angles, making seasoned youth coaches rub their eyes in disbelief. But Madrid's youth system had its own hierarchy. Preference was given to physicality, to the traditional number 9s and towering midfield generals. Messi, still under treatment and barely over 5 feet tall, was seen as a curiosity. Brilliant, yes, but fragile. Maybe a good impact sub, one coach whispered. Another muttered, not built for Spanish football. That changed when Jorge Valdano, then a sporting director with an eye for genius, intervened. You're all blind, he told the academy staff. He's not the future of Madrid, he's the future of football. Valdano arranged for Messi to train periodically with the senior squad. There, under the blinding lights of the Bernabeu training grounds, the contrast became even starker. Messi was surrounded by giants, Beckham with his charisma, Ronaldo Nazario with his swagger, Zidane with his royal poise. And yet every time Lionel touched the ball, the tempo shifted. Defenders froze. Time slowed. The ball obeyed him like it feared him. Even Zidane, ever silent, once nodded toward the kid after a rondo and muttered, "Él tiene magia." Despite the growing murmurs, Messi remained humble, almost painfully so. He rarely smiled in team photos. He still lived with his family in a modest apartment in Getafe, far from the glitz of Madrid's elite enclaves. Fame hadn't touched him, not it, but pressure had. Every training session was a test. Every media mention compared him to a dozen legends. And every time Barcelona won a match without him, a silent thought burned. What if? Real Madrid's system began to adjust. The coaches started tailoring sessions to Messi's strengths, encouraging free movement, quick passing, vertical play. Some players resented the attention the little Argentine received. Others simply watched in awe. Raúl, the club legend, reportedly told a young Sergio Ramos, "If this kid stays healthy, we might never need another number 10 again." Still, Messi didn't yet feel at home. He was grateful, but not grounded. Unlike Barcelona's promise of belonging, Madrid had offered a spotlight, and under its heat, Lionel's roots had yet to take hold. As the 2005-06 season loomed, a decision was made. Messi would be promoted fully to the senior team, not as a novelty, but as a weapon. Not for the system, but to change it. The boy from Rosario had arrived, but the man he would become? Still uncertain. The 2005-06 season was the year Lionel Messi began to truly emerge from the shadows, not as the understudy to Madrid's stars, but as something else entirely, something they hadn't seen before. He wore the number 30 shirt. His shoulders were narrow, his frame still slight, but when he stepped onto the pitch, he moved like he belonged there. His La Liga debut came in a rainy away game against Celta Vigo. Just 10 minutes from the bench, a subtle nutmeg, a jinking dribble through 3 defenders, and a left-footed finish into the bottom corner. Madrid won 2-1. The headlines the next morning weren't about Beckham or Robinho. They were about him. The Bernabeu responded cautiously at first. Madridistas weren't used to heroes who didn't demand the spotlight. Messi didn't celebrate with outstretched arms or kiss the crest. He simply jogged back, eyes low, as if embarrassed by the fuss. But within weeks, the whispers turned to roars. Goals against Sevilla, Zaragoza, even one against Atletico in the Derby. Each one a quiet scream that a new era was knocking. What made it strange was that Messi wasn't Galactico. He didn't speak to the press. He didn't wear earrings or sport luxury watches. In a club built on brand and spectacle, he felt like a glitch in the system. But his football was irrefutable. Real began to shift around him. The formation morphed, from rigid 4-4-2s into more fluid, reactive shapes that gave Messi space to roam. Coaches once skeptical became converts. Still, the culture clash lingered. Ronaldo Nazario admired Messi's game, but often teased him for being too serious. Beckham, always the diplomat, tried to bring him into team dinners, but Messi rarely stayed long. He trained, he played, and he went home. He was a ghost wrapped in white silk, haunting defenders and slipping past the expectations of what a Madrid player should be. The real test came in El Clásico. Barcelona arrived at the Bernabeu with Ronaldinho in full bloom and a young Andrés Iniesta beginning to sparkle. Messi sat on the bench at kickoff. Madrid went down 2-0 by halftime. The crowd murmured. Capello turned to the bench. The boy stood up. What happened next would enter club folklore. In the 68th minute, Messi picked up the ball deep on the right. Flank twisted past Van Bronckhorst, danced by Marquez, cut inside past Puyol, and curled a shot beyond Victor Valdés. 2-1. In stoppage time, a Beckham cross rebounded off a defender, and there he was again. Messi with a half volley from the edge of the box. 2-2. He didn't smile. He just raised one arm, turned away from the crowd, and looked toward the Barcelona bench. Not in anger, but with something like melancholy. They had let him go, and now he was returning the favor. Madrid didn't win the title that year, but they found something more lasting, a prodigy who could do what no signing had. In years, make Madrid feel again. The boy was now a phenomenon, and the world was beginning to notice. By 2008, Lionel Messi was no longer a prodigy. He was a force. But forces need oppositions to define them. And in the summer of that year, Real Madrid, always obsessed with icons, made the most Galactico move since Zidane. They signed Cristiano. Ronaldo. It was seismic. The Portuguese superstar arrived from Manchester United in a whirlwind of flashbulbs, swagger, and record-breaking fees. Madrid was his stage now, and the spotlight tilted instantly toward him. For most players, this would have been a death sentence, but Messi wasn't most players. He didn't need the spotlight, he needed the ball. The 2008-09 season began with an uncomfortable chemistry. Messi, quiet and surgical, operating in the spaces Ronaldo vacated with his surging runs. For months, They struggled to coexist. Two suns in one sky. Reporters declared a cold war between them, though the truth was stranger. They rarely spoke. Messi respected Ronaldo's work ethic. Ronaldo admired Messi's instincts, but each wanted to be the one, and there was only room for one king in Madrid. Meanwhile, in Catalonia, something was brewing. Pep Guardiola had taken over as manager at FC Barcelona. Young, philosophical, and fiercely idealistic, he built a team around quick passing, positional mastery, and homegrown talent. Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Piqué, a reinvention of Cruyff's legacy, and all of them had grown up expecting Messi to be among them. Now they saw him in white. For Guardiola, it was personal. "That's the one that got away," he once told a journalist, watching tape of Messi's goals with bitter awe. And so he turned inward, building a system where no single player was bigger than the idea. But still, the specter of Messi haunted every training session. Then came that Clásico, May 2nd, 2009. Camp Nou Madrid arrived top of the table. Barcelona were second, but resurgent. The match was framed not just as a battle of clubs, but of philosophies. Madrid's individual brilliance versus Barcelona's collectivist dream. Ronaldo scored early. The crowd booed. Then Messi struck back. A mazy run through midfield. A give-and-go with Kaká. A finish so smooth it felt choreographed. But the match wasn't about goals. It was about energy. Ronaldo barked at teammates. Messi drifted in silence. Ronaldo pointed at his chest. Messi pointed at space. Barcelona won 3-2. But it felt like a war had just begun. In the weeks after, the media sharpened the narrative. Ronaldo versus Messi became a brand. Two empires, two ideologies, two superhumans. But what few saw was how it was changing Messi. He trained longer. He spoke less. He smiled almost never. The boy from Rosario, who once just wanted to play, now had to conquer. And Guardiola watched from a distance, knowing that Messi had evolved in a world that demanded perfection without peace. The rivalry had ignited, not just between clubs, not just between players, but within Messi himself. By 2011, Lionel Messi had become Real Madrid's sharpest blade, an unrelenting weapon honed to perfection. Under Jose Mourinho, the team became a ruthless machine, built for domination. Tactically disciplined, emotionally charged, and absolutely relentless. And at its heart stood Messi, not as a star among stars, but as its silent executioner. He was no longer the wiry kid with shy eyes. He was stronger, faster, colder. The goals flowed, 53 in one season, then 59, then 66. He broke Stefano's records. He shattered Raúl's legacy. He dragged Madrid to a treble. The world stopped arguing if he was the best in the club. They began asking if he was the best ever. But power has a price. The Messi of Madrid was not the Messi the world might have known. Under Mourinho's siege mentality leadership, Messi's game became narrower, more lethal but less joyful. He pressed with fury. He tracked back like a soldier. He dribbled less in favor of direct, devastating efficiency. Gone was the playful spontaneity. What remained was precision born from pressure. He won. A lot. But he was alone. The bond he might have shared with Iniesta and Xavi never formed. His closest teammates, Ronaldo, Pepe, Ramos, respected him. But they were warriors, not brothers. He had no Dani Alves to joke with in training, no Busquets to balance his rhythm, just expectations and goals. Every day he returned to his apartment, awards on the shelves, silence in the rooms. His relationship with Ronaldo soured subtly. They competed not just for Ballon d'Ors but for influence. One press photo showed them standing side by side, not looking at each other, their smiles thin as paper. Behind closed doors, tension simmered. Ronaldo demanded penalties. Messi refused to defer. Mourinho played the rivalry like a violin, fueling it to drive performance. The press loved it. Titans collide was the daily headline. But Messi, who had once played with joy, now played with something colder, obligation. Guardiola's Barcelona, meanwhile, were redefining the sport. Tiki-taka was more than a tactic. It was poetry in motion. And every match against Madrid was like watching two timelines collide. One where Messi was harmony, and one where he was fire. In the 2011 Champions League semi-final, Messi scored twice against Barca at the Bernabeu. He didn't celebrate. The cameras caught him glancing at Guardiola on the sideline. Pep didn't flinch. But later, in an interview, he said softly, "He's everything I dreamed of, just on the wrong side." That summer, Messi won his third Ballon d'Or. He held the trophy high, alone on the stage, bathed in gold light. The crowd roared, but inside something began to whisper. What did I lose to become this? It was supposed to be just another press conference. Spring 2014. Real Madrid had just suffered a humiliating 3-0 defeat to Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. Messi was nowhere to be seen on the score sheet. Rumors swirled. An injury, fatigue, or something worse, detachment. Then came the question, "Leo, do you still love football?" He didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, it was in a whisper. "I'm tired." The room fell silent. The press officer tried to move things along, but the damage was done. For the first time, Messi had said something not in service of the game, but in service of himself, and it sent shockwaves through the football world. Behind the scenes, the strain had become unbearable. His relationship with Mourinho had broken, down after the Portuguese manager left in 2013. But the residue remained. The combative tactics, the US versus them mindset, the endless grind. Carlo Ancelotti brought calm, but Messi was already fraying. The tipping point came not on the pitch but in the locker room. It was during a tense training session. A heated exchange with Cristiano Ronaldo. Something minor, something stupid, boiled over. "You were supposed to be one of us," Ronaldo snapped, "but you're just playing for yourself now." Messi didn't respond. He walked off the pitch. In that moment, everything that had been building, the loneliness, the disconnection, the weight of a decade spent chasing shadows, collapsed into one question he could no longer avoid. What if I had said no to Madrid? He began to reach out quietly to old friends. A message to Javier Mascherano, a late-night call with Cesc Fabregas, a visit to Barcelona, officially for a sponsorship shoot, but really, to walk the halls of La Masía, now a stranger in the home he never had. Guardiola, now at Bayern, arranged to meet him in a hotel lobby. No cameras, no agents. "I see you," Pep said, watching Messi stir his coffee in silence. "But I don't see you anymore." Messi looked up. "I don't know who that is." That summer, Real Madrid won La Liga, but Messi didn't lift the trophy with the team. He watched from the bench, nursing a minor injury. Or maybe it was an excuse. Maybe he just couldn't face the lie any longer. The rumors exploded. Messi to PSG? A return to Argentina? But one story, buried on page 12 of El País, said something different. Barcelona interested in repatriating lost son. Florentino Perez scoffed publicly. He is Real Madrid's legacy. But Messi wasn't sure he believed that anymore. His contract was due for renewal. He had every record, every trophy, every individual honor, but not peace. And so one night, standing alone in the center of an empty Bernabeu, Messi asked himself not whether he was the greatest, but whether he was still his. The turning point had come. Now he had to choose. Summer 2015. For the first time in 15 years, Lionel Messi was a free agent. No renewal, no farewell statement, no fireworks, just silence, deafening across every front page in Europe. Madrid held its breath, and somewhere in Rosario, on the kitchen table of his childhood home, sat a letter, not from an agent, not from a club, from 3 players. "Leo, you don't owe us anything, but if you ever want to come home, the door is open." Andres, Sergio, Luis, not from the boardroom, not from Nike, from the people who once called him family, even if he had never worn their shirt. Messi read it 3 times. He had won everything. Ballon d'Ors, treble, records. But somewhere along the way, he had lost something unmeasurable. Himself. In Madrid, the machine moved on. Florentino Perez didn't flinch. Messi is the past. This club builds futures. Neymar was unveiled. Ronaldo remained the crown jewel. Headlines turned cold. Messi didn't take it personally. It wasn't hate, it was release. The chapter was written. Now he had to choose how the story ended. September 2015. Camp Nou, no trumpets, no cinematic reveal. Just a man with stubble wearing the number 19, no captain's armband. No choreographed tribute, just the ball. And home. He came on in the 67th minute against Sevilla. The stadium didn't roar. It trembled. Not because he scored. He didn't. But because he smiled. For the first time in years, what followed wasn't redemption. It was reconnection. Messi didn't play to dominate anymore. He played to belong, to create, to share. He fed Suarez. Let Iniesta shine. Let Busquets conduct. He gave more assists than goals. Stayed after training. Laughed with La Masía. Kids, not as a god, as a teammate. He didn't try to reclaim the throne. He pulled up a chair at the table he never got to sit at. In 2017, Barcelona won La Liga. In 2018, they lifted the Champions League. Messi scored once in the final. He didn't lift the trophy. Alone. He turned to Sergio Busquets and Luis Suarez and said, "You lift it with me. We all came back for this." Later that year, he declined a Ballon d'Or nomination. "I've already won," he told the press. "Just not the way I expected to." Years later, retired and silver-haired, Messi sat for a documentary interview. Behind him, a wall of shirts. Not framed, worn. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Argentina, Newell's. The interviewer asked, "If you could change one thing, would you?" Messi thought for a moment, then smiled. That quiet, boyish smile from so long ago. Maybe nothing. Even the wrong road took me where I needed to go. And that was the truth. This story had never been about the trophies. It had been about a boy with a gift who got lost in greatness and fought his way back to joy. Because legacy isn't what you leave behind, it's what you bring home.